City County School Board. May I have a member certify closed session?
Madam Chair, I certify to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Aller?
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. We'll move into item 4.01, announcements and the superintendent's report. Dr. Keeper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am still very grateful and excited and grateful, depending on how you want to frame that, about last night's screening of the documentary Multiple Choice, which we hosted in conjunction with William & Mary. It featured a story about Winchester schools and the students there as the school division and students explore the idea of diverse careers and collaborating together and mastering the traditional and new economy skills. It laid out a vision for an innovation center that came to life in Winchester, and one of the things that I challenged the 200 members of the community who had registered to attend was to consider how might we envision that for our community. It was a special evening, and it was, I think, a powerful, impactful evening. I want to thank the Winchester Superintendent, Dr. Jason Van Hukelum, for joining with us and sharing some of that work. More to come for those that were in attendance, and I look forward to expanding that conversation in the days and years that follow. Job fair. We are in hiring mode. In fact, we're in hiring mode all the time, but especially on Saturday from 9 until noon, we are hosting a weekend job fair at War Hill High School. We are hiring for immediate vacancies as well as those vacancies we anticipate for the 26-27 school year. There will be on-site interviews, and qualified candidates can walk away with a job offer. We want to add to our team. We want to bring in outstanding educators and staff members to Williamsburg-James City County. So let your friends and neighbors know we're on the lookout. The kindergarten kickoff webinar is just around the corner. It's March 18th. We are calling all incoming kindergarten families to participate in this webinar as we begin to start the process of transitioning folks in for the 2026 kindergarten kickoff. It's a webinar that will be all things kindergarten. What's the registration process like? How does transportation work? What is life like as a kindergarten student? The webinar features a question and answer and sneak peek of April's Kindergarten Registration Family Fest. The webinar is 6 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th of March. There is online registration available on our website. Also would like to close today talking about the public square debate that occurred at William & Mary. Students from War Hill High School, Jamestown High School, and Lafayette participated in a Braver Angels public square debate hosted on campus. Again, this is another example to me of our students exhibiting their learning in a real-world scenario. Students practice civil discourse, active listening, and thoughtful engagement on real-world issues. This event is one of many that is in celebration of VA 250. Students gave speeches and asked questions of fellow speakers. They all came prepared and ready for a respectful dialogue with college students and community members. I want to especially congratulate the 15 WJCC students who participated. We're proud of each of you. Madam Chair, that concludes my presentation for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Keever. I know Mrs. Hunley has a report.
I have the Mentor Teacher Program Advisory Committee report. And Dr. Keever, I think I see another VSBA presentation coming.
Wonderful. Thank you,
For
Ms.
our
Hunley.
wonderful, we talked about Teachers for Tomorrow, their current program, the future vision of that. The iTeach participant data was shared. the unique needs of all alternative pathway teachers, the mentor and training design, which we actually have a chat box for the mentors to get their training from that. We can put in all of WJCC information, policies, practices, procedures. Those mentors can go in there, ask a question, and it'll shoot back a suggestion for them. Of course, data is always at the forefront. They're always surveying, finding out how things are going. It's really tough because mid-year they had to hire 16 people. That means, that's looking for additional mentors for them. We have students that are interns that are in the high school that are in our elementary schools, and they are getting paid to help teachers, mainly in the elementary areas. We have, some that can take advantage of New Horizon as well. We have a William and Mary Literacy curriculum course that's at Claire Bird Baker, but they're going to be able to move that to other schools in the future. So we have the reading specialists there, and they're working with students there, and then the students leave and go and work in our classrooms. So we also have 30 participants now. And of those 30, 4 elementary, 6 middle, 5 high, 17 are in with our SPED. And we have 3 that are almost done with certification and 7 working on that. So CERN is a big part of what we do, the CERN cohort that's helping 19 of our participants. 8 of those transferred to WJCC, 5 were late hires, and 6 were principal recommendation. And so they are working really hard to make sure that anybody that is working with our students are certified and ready to go. And so I was very impressed. I can't put into words just looking at all this stuff on my paper, but it's a well-oiled machine, and I think we need to share it. The successes of it with other divisions. It's that good. Thank you.
So much. Ms. Sully, you were also going to talk
I'm
about
going to let Mr. Hodges take that report.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have a couple things. Thank you, Madam Chair. On February 19th, I attended a meeting of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council with Ms. Chen at Lafayette High School. We watched as Dr. Keever guided the students through a robust discussion about the conditions of the bathrooms in our high schools and some possible solutions to some of those common problems. Next, Dr. Keever fielded some questions and concerns from the students about topics ranging from the condition of chairs in the classroom to, and this one is for Mr. Hosang and Dr. Cavazos, why is lacrosse not a VHSL sport? You're welcome for that. Next, the students had small group discussions with staff members on a variety of topics that included things like redistricting, school culture, and technology use as part of the Student Voices Tour, and I think we're going to hear more about that later this evening. And, there were really a lot of robust conversations at each of those stations, and, I think it was really, really fruitful dialogue. And then finally, the students took part in an academic calendar building exercise that helped give the students a chance to see how the academic calendar planning process works. And I should note, as a member of the academic calendar committee, I actually took some of the feedback that I heard from the students and shared it during our last calendar committee meeting. So I hope these students will take solace in the fact that their feedback and perspectives were noted and presented. And then, like Ms. Hunley said, on February 26th, Ms. Donner, Ms. Hunley, and I went to the Career Connections Fair at War Hill High School. There were a number of local businesses, military branches, and local government agencies present to talk to our students and families about the various career paths and how students might prepare for any of those careers in the future. And a cool thing, while we were there, Ms. Hunley and I met 4 student EMTs who I think it's fair to say were raving about their experience with the career training opportunity that they had. And I think that really just highlights some of the great opportunities that our students have outside of the traditional classroom setting. And I think it really ties in nicely with what Dr. Keever was saying about the multiple choice documentary and, looking at some ways that we can engage students for whom traditional schooling may not be the best option. And so that was really cool to see. And, I ended up learning so much about some of the ways that we can help prepare our students for life after school, whether or not that's college or career or otherwise. And with that, Madam Chair, I conclude my remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hodges. Any other reports? Okay. Thank you so much. We will move on to section 5.01 proposed, or section 5 proposed agenda items. Our first one is 5.01, review the special education plan for 2026-2027 and the Title 6B flow-through fund.
Madam Chair, this is an annual opportunity for administration to present the board with a local special education annual plan. Ms. Cruz will walk the board through this information, and I believe we are looking for the board to approve this at another meeting. Ms. Cruz?
Good evening, Chairwoman Donner, members of the board, and Dr. Keever. I appreciate the opportunity to present the Special Education Annual Plan for 2026-2027. This plan outlines our approach to providing high-quality special education services while ensuring compliance with state and federal regulations. On February 11th, the Special Education Advisory Committee reviewed the plan and expressed their support. While this plan reflects the minimum funding mandates, it is critical that we recognize the growing needs of our students with disabilities. We must ensure that every student has access to the resources, staffing, and support necessary for closing the achievement gap and meeting the intensive needs of our most vulnerable students. This evening, I will highlight the key components of the plan, including funding, staffing, and strategic initiatives. As we begin to discuss the annual plan, it is important to recognize how this work connects to the key performance indicators associated with academic achievement, college and career readiness, educational equity, human capital, and positive culture. Through the strategic use of IDA funds, we are able to maintain special education teachers who provide specially designed instruction, instructional assistants who support access and engagement, preschool early intervention staffing, and the parent resource coordinator. We also allocate funds to meet required early intervention and private school services. These investments ensure that students with disabilities have access to appropriate instruction and supports, while also strengthening the overall instructional capacity of the division. The Special Education Annual Plan is a formal agreement between the local school board and the Virginia Department of Education. This plan is essential because it enables us to receive federal funding to support students with disabilities. Every component of this plan must be approved before funds are allocated, and those funds must be used exclusively for special education services and personnel. Our goal is to ensure that every student with disabilities receives the support they need to succeed in their educational journey. Special education funding comes from two separate federal funding streams: IDEA Part B 611 funding, which is designated for school-age students with disabilities, and IDEA Part B 619 funding, which supports preschool students with disabilities. These funds are distributed based on a formula, and while we have an estimated budget, new allocations have not yet been released by the state. We anticipate receiving updated figures soon. To remain compliant with state and federal regulations, our plan includes several required components. These include the superintendent certification, policy statements and assurances, special education services for students in local and regional jails, reports on how we implemented last year's plan, maintenance of effort and eligibility requirements, coordinated early intervening services and proportionate set-aside, application for use of federal funds for Section IDA Part B 611 and 619. Looking at 2024-2025, we successfully allocated all federal funds to support the salaries and benefits of special education personnel. By doing so, we met the minimum funding requirements for our students with disabilities. WJCC cannot report on the 2025-2026 implementation of the plan until the year has come to an end. That report will be included in next year's annual plan presentation. Our district remains committed to the core principles outlined in our Statement of Insurances. These include ensuring a free, appropriate public education is available to all students with disabilities, maintaining individualized education programs for eligible students, educating students with disabilities alongside their non-disabled peers whenever possible, and implementing policies that prevent inappropriate identification or disproportionate representation of students with disabilities. This table provides an overview of our special education student population as reported on our September 30th Fall Student Record Collection and December 1 Child Count Report, categorized by age group. It highlights the number of students enrolled in early childhood programs versus K through 12 and the corresponding percentage of total enrollment in each group. The Early Childhood Special Education Bright Beginnings program serves 187 students, making up 55% of the total special education enrollment in this category. The high percentage suggests a strong emphasis on early intervention, which is critical in supporting developmental needs at an early age. The K through 12 special education program serves 1,936 students, accounting for 17.4% of total enrollment in this category. For the 2026-2027 school year, our plan for the use of federal funding remains consistent with the prior year's framework. The IDEA Part B 611 funds total $2,481,602 and will cover the salaries and benefits of 14 special education teachers, 6 special education assistants, and a part-time parent resource coordinator. Our IDEA Part B 619 funds totaling $34,694 will contribute to the salary of 1 special education teacher in our Bright Beginnings preschool program. Our state and local funds totaling $30,405,265 will contribute to the salaries and benefits of 141 special education teachers, 164 special education assistants, 0.5 parent resource coordinators, 38 related services personnel, 3 behavior specialists, and 10 central support. These funds are critical to maintaining high-quality instruction and support services for our students with disabilities. It is important to note that with the rise in salaries and healthcare costs, when compared to IDEA Part B level funding, we will not be able to fund as many positions. As part of our compliance obligations, we must demonstrate maintenance of effort, or MOE. This means that we are required to spend at least the same amount of local or local plus state funds on special education as we did in the previous year. To ensure compliance, we use 4 key financial tests. Total local funds. This test checks if the total amount of local funds spent on special education is at least the same as the previous year. Total state and local funds. This test looks at the combined total of state and local funds spent on special education, ensuring it hasn't decreased from the previous year. Per capita local funds. This test calculates the amount of local funds spent per student with a disability and compares it to the previous year to ensure it hasn't dropped. Per capita state and local funds, similar to the third test, this one calculates the combined state and local funds spent per student with a disability and checks it against the previous year's amount. WJCC presently passes the 4 key financial tests. This requirement helps maintain financial stability for special education services, ensuring that funding is not reduced over time. Highlighted here is a year-over-year comparison of our maintenance of effort funding between 24-25 and 25-26 school years. It highlights the projected increases in both total and per-student funding for special education services. We project a local funding increase of $3,124,457, a local and state funding increase of $3,639,450, a local per capita students with disabilities, the per student local funding increase of $1,415. Similarly, a local and state per capita increase of $1,634. These projected increases demonstrate our dedication to maintaining and expanding support for students with disabilities by ensuring that our funding grows alongside student needs. We remain compliant with MOE requirements and continue providing high-quality educational services. Projected maintenance of effort requirements for the 2026-2027 school year. Looking at the breakdown, the local contribution for MOE is $22,327,075. The combined local and state funding amounts to $30,405,265. On a per-student basis, the local per capita amount for students with disabilities is $10,516. Similarly, when combined local and state funding, the per capita amount for students with disabilities increases to $14,321. By maintaining or exceeding these levels of funding, we ensure compliance with federal regulations while continuing to meet the needs of students with disabilities. Failure to meet MOE requirements could result in a loss of federal funding, which is why these numbers are closely monitored, and it presents a comprehensive view of our special education expenditures from 2021 through 2025. It highlights the financial commitment from federal, state, and local sources to support students with disabilities. The increasing trend in total expenditures reflects our ongoing investment in maintaining and serving the increasing needs of our students as they evolve. Growth in total special education expenditures. Over the 5-year period, total spending has consistently increased in correlation with the increase of salaries and benefits and increased complex needs of our most vulnerable students with disabilities. Contracted services for speech, OT, and psychologists, self-contained paraprofessionals, one-to-one paraprofessionals, instructional paraprofessionals, reading and math adapted instructional programming, assistive technology, early intervention, Bright Beginnings, Child Find, private day and public alternative placements, home base due to private day and public alternative placements. Breakdown of funding sources. Local funding is the light blue bar segment, which is approximately 68%. State funding is the medium blue bar segment, which is approximately 24%. Federal funding is the dark blue segment, which is approximately 8%.
Ms. Cruz, if I could just, as a reminder,
Yes.
the IDEA legislation, the law suggests what is the amount that the federal government is supposed to help provide to ensure that this is happening?
40%.
40%. It appears that there's an 8% there under the federal government.
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to be sure I understood.
Yes, sir. For fiscal year 25, the amount of state and federal funding was approximately $9 million, and local funding was $18.9 million.
Crazy.
Coordinated Early Intervening Services, or CEIS, requires WJCC to allocate 15% funds to support early intervention services. These services are designed to help students who are not currently identified as needing special education, but who require additional academic or behavioral support to succeed. Proportionate Set-Aside, or PSA, this requires WJCC to allocate a specific portion of federal funds to provide special education and related services for children with disabilities who are parentally placed in private schools or homeschools. For this year, we have 107 students who qualify under PSA, each receiving an average allocation of $1,273. The total funding set aside for these services is $107,711. These allocations ensure that we are meeting both federal requirements and the needs of our students. We continue to work closely with families and private institutions to make sure these services are accessible and effective. Looking ahead, our annual plan must be submitted to the Virginia Department of Education by May 8, 2026. This is a critical deadline to ensure timely approval and funding allocation. In terms of funding disbursement, federal funds are released in 2 phases. July 1, 2026, we will receive 29.8% of our allocated funds. October 1st, 2026, the remaining 70.2% will be dispersed. This schedule ensures that we have the necessary resources in place to support special education services at the start of the school year and throughout its duration. Your approval is being sought at the March 24th school board meeting. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cruz. I'll open up to the board for questions or comments. I will say, as we're having budget conversations, what really stuck out to me, besides that, I mean, if the federal government was supposed to give 40%, that means that we would be spending $5 million total, which doesn't even come close. And that like 10% of our special ed teachers are covered by the grant, but the federal funds, but 90% are not. And then in terms of our assistance, it's 3.7% of the total is covered. And so I think just as we're thinking about our budget, and so for the viewing public to truly understand how much of our funding is really dependent on our local parties and our local funding partners, and without them and the taxpayers really making these investments, when you go, it's costing us over almost 25 million, but we would only kind of theoretically be spending 5 million. Like, it's just woefully underfunded from a federal and a state perspective. So, thank you. Thank you. Our next agenda item is 5.02, review purchase request. Just lost it. Review purchase request for elementary 4th and 5th grade student laptops.
Mr. Landers, would you walk us through this annual purchase?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Kiefer. This agenda item is to ask for your consideration of and approval at the next meeting of purchasing replacement laptops for elementary 4th and 5th grade student use in support of our ongoing technology refresh cycle. The Department of Technology annually refreshes approximately 1/4 of our staff and student laptops on a 4-year refresh cycle in order to maintain warranty and serviceability, as well as compatibility with required applications and network functionality. The purchase request will provide 870 laptops for 4th and 5th grade student use. The purchase does include an extended warranty and services for a total purchase price of $655,545. The purchase will be made using the NCPA Omnia contract with Lenovo. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from the board? Having been a parent of a 5th grade laptop last year, I think it is well overdue. Screens of death. I think she had 2 or 3 laptops that year. So.
Oh, boy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Landers.
Thank you.
Hey, Brian.
We'll move on to 5.03, review request for proposal number 2025-1153, annual engineering services for WJCC schools.
Mr. Snipes, would you talk us through this agenda item, please?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kiever. Tonight's proposed agenda item is a placeholder agenda item. It supports Elevation 28 priority, organizational effectiveness and efficiency. Is being brought for your consideration is the review of request for proposal 202-51153, which is the annual engineering services for WJCC schools. A request for proposal was solicited from qualified engineering firms to simplify the purchasing process and efficiently expedite work when minor design and technical engineering assistance is required. Interested firms responded to the RFP by describing their interest, qualifications, project approach, and experience in performing similar work. Evaluations panels consisted of staff from James City Service Authority, Stormwater, Environmental Planning, WJCC Schools, and the Division of in Purchasing evaluated proposals and selected the most qualified firms for each group. The contracts have an initial term of 1 year with an option of 3 additional one-year renewals available to the county, JCSA, and WJCC schools. The superintendent recommends the school board review the information and be prepared to award the contract annual engineering services at the March 24th, 2026 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you, Marcellus.
We'll now move on to item 5.04, review amendment to fiscal year 26 grants fund budget.
One of the nice things about getting grants is that it's money that we're able to utilize to support our students. Along with that, we need to amend our grants budget, and Renee is bringing forward to you this evening a number of different grants that we've received and ensuring that we have the right items captured in our grants budget. Renee?
Thank you, Dr. Kiever. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. This agenda item is an amendment to the fiscal year 26 grants fund budget, bringing the total to $7,483,350. This update reflects $454,474 in newly awarded grants and community contributions that support instruction, student services, and program enhancements across WJCC. These funds include support for math instruction, including an innovation grant and a summer bridge program for students entering accelerated coursework. We also receive funding to expand computer science integration in grades K through 8 and to purchase CTE equipment and testing materials. We're grateful for grants that supported our summer feeding program and the Spark Community Empowerment Grant to provide assistance for students in need. Additionally, we are fortunate to have community partners like Cook's Burger Bar, which is contributing a portion of monthly sales to recognize and support WJCC teachers. These grants strengthen our programs and deepen our community partnerships. We are requesting approval to amend the grants fund to include these awards, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ewing. Are there any questions? No? Well, thank you so much. We are very grateful for all those community donors and other grants that we receive. We'll move on to the next agenda item, review provisions to the 2026-2027 school year calendar.
Madam Chair, this evening, Ms. Ford is going to talk to us about potential and suggested revisions to the 26-27 calendar. We continue to understand the need at the elementary level and the pre-K level to provide teacher time as we work through our literacy and numeracy curriculums. Robin, can you talk to us about those suggested changes, please?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Kiever. This afternoon, I am presenting a recommendation to revise the 2026-2027 school calendar in response to the significant professional learning and training that will be required of our preschool and elementary teachers next school year. This calendar recommendation directly supports the key priority of WJCC's strategic plan, Elevate to 28, academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity, and the supporting priority, human capital and positive culture. You may recall the board has approved similar requests for an elementary school calendar modification to provide teachers time for professional learning required to meet the changes in teaching and learning that have been implemented in the past 2 years. As we have gathered feedback from elementary employee groups this year, administrators and staff recognize the benefits of this year's elementary professional learning plan, including protected time dedicated to professional learning responsibilities, building knowledge over time by having content presented in manageable components with time to practice and reflect before additional learning takes place, and time to collaborate with colleagues and specialists. In the 26-27 school year, our elementary teachers will need time and support for professional learning focused on 3 content areas. Teachers will be in year 2 of implementing the KIDM math curriculum. Their professional needs will include time to understand and plan for the use of the supplementary resources embedded within KIDM, and plan more extensively for assessments and differentiated instruction. Additional optional professional learning sessions will also be offered this summer at Camp GPS and extend through next school year with the support of the math specialist during collaborative instructional planning and coaching. Next year, pending your approval of a science textbook for grades 4 and 5 later this spring, teachers will need time for professional learning and extended collaborative planning to effectively implement the new science curriculum. We also plan to purchase a supplemental instructional resource to support social studies instruction in grades K through 3 for the new history and social science standards of learning. Students and teachers will benefit from professional learning support to effectively embed the use of this resource in teaching and learning. As the Bright Beginnings program transitions from 5 elementary-based sites into 2 unified pre-K campuses, they are not simply relocating classrooms, they are building 2 new school communities. To ensure a successful launch, there is a need for Bright Beginnings staff to have structured, dedicated time to develop a shared vision and identity for our North and South campuses, align instructional practices, routines, and expectations across all classrooms, strengthen a cohesive, high-performing team culture among staff coming together for the first time, plan and coordinate operational systems such as student arrival and dismissal, family communication, intervention structures, behavior supports, and safety protocols, and ensure consistency in curriculum implementation, data use, and progress monitoring. These additional collaborative days, combined with the existing CLP days, will allow our pre-K program to design and implement a comprehensive 26-27 professional development plan that is proactive rather than reactive. Most importantly, this investment ensures we maintain program quality and instructional excellence, preserve continuity and stability for students and families, and launch our new campuses with clarity, consistency, and confidence. This afternoon, we recommend revising the 2026-27 school calendar to change 2 days, September 25th and December 11th, to preschool and elementary student holidays and CLP days for their teachers, and April 2nd to a preschool student holiday and CLP day for the Bright Beginnings staff. These dates were selected to allow teachers to have dedicated time to collaboration and spaced professional learning experiences. If this calendar change is approved, we will continue to exceed the 990 instructional hours required by the Standards of Quality and WJCC Policy IC school year. Thank you for the opportunity to share this recommendation with you this afternoon. This time, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have as you prepare to vote at the March 24th meeting.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from the board? All right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate the.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. And item 5.06, review calendar recommendation for school year 2027-2028.
Madam Chair, as a school division, we are attempting to be a year and a half or 2 years out on our academic calendar. That allows for the community to plan, families, staff, students, administratively to have a better understanding of how we ensure the dates align and things feel good. So we are bringing forward a recommendation this evening for the 27-28 academic calendar, and I look forward to the board's feedback on next steps.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Keever. This afternoon, I'm presenting background on the academic calendar planning process and the calendar committee's conversation and approach to bringing forward a 27-28 academic calendar. The calendar committee is comprised of a variety of stakeholders, staff members and family members at all levels, and designated representation from the WJCEA, school board, and central leadership. We invited new individuals interested in serving on the calendar committee to express interest via an Engage With Us form in January, and also welcomed back veteran members of the calendar committee. The committee has already met twice, first to consider the philosophy and approaches around building an academic calendar. The committee was then charged with completing some homework before coming back together to discuss the proposed calendar before you tonight, as well as other possibilities to compose an academic calendar. I'd like to thank the committee for its time and its thoughtful dedication to this work. Our philosophy in building the draft 27-28 academic calendar was guided by several key tenets. Historically, our school division has built calendars with 180 instructional days. However, the committee both acknowledged and had conversation around the approach of building a calendar around 990 clock hours. An August start date, specifically August 23rd in 2027, allows for more instructional time before the May window for SOL exams and AP exams opens. Teacher contracts contain 13 CLP days, and placing those strategically throughout the year is of importance. CLP days, that's staff collaboration, learning, and planning days, are holidays for students. Past feedback to the calendar committee has underscored the preference for 2 full 5-day weeks of winter break and 1 full week of spring break. We have also heard in previous years that early release days can be challenging for families, and after students ultimately dismiss, they may not offer quite a sufficient amount of time, productive time for staff members. Today's proposed 180-day calendar contains start and end dates of Monday, August 23rd, 2027, and Thursday, June 8th, 2028, respectively. Tuesday, November 2nd, is an election day, and as has been the practice for several years, that Monday and Tuesday are proposed as student holidays and staff CLP days for family conferences. New this year, the calendar committee is proposing a student holiday and staff CLP day on Monday, January 3rd. While this would be a contract day for staff members, it would effectively extend winter break for students and families by 1 day. The view of the proposed calendar here displays first semester and several of the dates that I've already shared. As is required by state code, Friday, September 3rd is noted as a holiday. Many school divisions in the Commonwealth that start school before Labor Day are required to have a holiday on the Friday preceding Labor Day. The committee placed a student holiday and staff contractual CLP day on Monday, October 11th. October 2026, so this coming October, is the first year where our academic calendar aligns the student holiday with the federal holiday. So while we have not had experience with that calendar arrangement so far, it is the committee's proposal to maintain that placement in 2027. Second semester, or marking periods 3 and 4, are displayed here. We would maintain Friday, March 31st, the Friday before spring break, as an early release day. June 5th and 6th, Monday and Tuesday, would be early release days for high school students. And Wednesday and Thursday, June 7th and 8th, would be early release days for all grade levels, pre-K to 12. In comparison to last year, this current year, and next year's calendars, you will see general alignment and a pattern in our WJCC calendar development. And as an extension of the previous slide, not only are we consistent year over year with ourselves, but we are generally well aligned with our neighbors. We have a great collaborative group of administrators that talk through calendar design as our respective school boards and calendar committees are considering future academic calendars, and I look forward to continued dialogue with them. As I alluded to at the beginning, state code allows academic calendars to be built on 180 days or 990 instructional hours. Historically, WJCC has started from a 180-day baseline. The committee did discuss the merits of a 990-hour calculation and the flexibility it could afford in building a calendar. For example, we could consider a full week break at Thanksgiving instead of 3 days. The school year could end earlier in general, and more specifically as it relates to proposing a CLP day on Monday, January 3rd, 2028. The day that was once an instructional day would not need to be accounted for elsewhere. Conversation around the philosophical approach to build the calendar would help guide the committee in its work. Our next steps include engaging the community around the academic calendar, bringing the work group or committee back together, and then returning to the school board. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. Any questions from the board or comments? Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Wall.
Our next agenda item is 5.07, review federal identification and school improvement plans for James River and Matthew Willey Elementary Schools.
Having learned of the federal designations for James River and Matthew Whaley, Mr. Walker, our accountability team, as well as the principals of the two schools have been working to put together the specific plans to meet the requirements of the federal designation relative to school improvement. So Sean is here this evening to walk us through next steps. Sean?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Keever. Today's presentation is a follow-up from the January 6th school board presentation, which explained the new Virginia School Accountability Model and how two of our elementary schools, James River and Matthew Whaley, received a federal identification status based on one underperforming student group, students with disabilities. For today's presentation outcomes, the next several slides will refresh our memory on the federal identification of these two elementary schools, how schools strive for a growth mindset focused on continuous improvement, current instructional supports in place for the elementary students, and the process for the submission of the school improvement grant application to the Virginia Department of Education. And I promise not to take you through complicated formulas and calculations with today's presentation. As a reminder, all public schools data is reviewed annually across the Commonwealth and embedded into a weighted 100-point accountability model. The data used for elementary schools includes students' performance on the SOL test in grades 3 through 5, counting for 65% of the total, known as mastery. Calculations for student growth in grades 4 through 5 for both reading and math account for 25%. And readiness counting for 10%, which is student attendance. If one or more student reporting groups' SOL performance falls below the established threshold or cut score, then a school will receive a designation status as federally identified. Both Matthew Whaley and James River received the federal identification of Targeted Support and Improvement, or TSI for short. Our two elementary schools were part of 434 Virginia schools federalized, which is approximately 1/4 of all total schools across the state. Because of the federal identification, both schools' overall school accountability designation status was automatically lowered one level. Matthew Whaley Elementary was lowered from on track to off track. And James River Elementary was lowered from off track to the needs intensive support designation. To provide some additional context, 616 Virginia schools, or 34% of schools across the state, were either identified as off track or needs intensive support. Our division's strategic plan, Elevate to 28, provides a clear roadmap focused on the key priority of academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity. All 16 of our schools develop an annual school improvement plan, unique to their students' data with related goals on reaching and or exceeding the school division's established 85% or higher academic benchmarks for literacy and mathematics. Additional school goals are established for student attendance, some schools with a science goal, graduation, and life readiness known as the 3 E's. This ensures that we continue doing the work that the new Virginia Accountability Framework measures. We held our first quarterly update meeting in November and then again in February with each of the 16 schools, with Dr. Keever, and with representatives from departments such as Student Services and Curriculum and Instruction. All schools shared their goals, their action steps, their progress monitoring, and the various forms of data that they use to inform planning and instruction. We will meet again in mid-April to hear updates and learn how each school plans to finish the year strong. In 2022, the Virginia Literacy Act was passed to ensure all students in grades kindergarten through 5th receive core literacy instruction from an evidence-based literacy curriculum aligned to science-based reading research, and also approved by the Virginia Department of Education. In WJCC elementary schools, that adopted literacy curriculum is Benchmark Advance, and we are in year 2 of implementation. Additionally, House Bill 2777 was approved into legislation in 2025, and it defines high-quality instructional materials, or HQIM, to include textbooks and other instructional materials serving as the foundational core curriculum in mathematics, science, and history for grades K through 12. KIDM is the adopted mathematics curriculum for elementary schools, and we are in year 1 implementation. I share this reminder about state-approved high-quality core curricula that has been adopted and implemented for literacy and numeracy in our 9 elementary schools for 2 reasons. Number 1, no matter the student's elementary school or classroom, it ensures equitable access to these adopted high-quality curricula for all students. And number 2, understanding that this adopted curricula used in our classrooms has an impact on student learning. Several research studies with very strong effect sizes show that access to high-quality instructional materials that are coupled with fidelity of implementation and curriculum-based professional learning lead to improvement in student outcomes. HQIM is designed to support our teachers, so they're spending less time building lessons from scratch, searching the internet for materials and activities, and being able to spend more time and energy on responding to students' needs with high-leverage learning activities that are already aligned from the approved core curricula. However, we understand that change and implementation of new curricula do come with some growing pains and needed supports, which is why, for example, it was vitally important for Camp GPS, Summer Professional Learning, as you heard just a moment ago, and calendar modifications, to support this implementation and learning curve for our elementary instructional staff. This slide shares information about our 2 federally identified elementary schools and how the staff at these 2 schools are working tirelessly to support student learning beyond the daily core classroom instruction that's being provided in reading and math. James River Elementary, represented by the blue bars, has 71 identified students in grades K through 5, or about 16% of its total enrollment, receiving additional weekly math instruction tailored to their needs. 153 students, or about 35%, are receiving weekly additional literacy instruction tailored to their needs. Matthew Whaley Elementary, represented by the orange bars, has 118 students in K through 5, or about 25%, receiving weekly math instruction tailored to their needs, and 158 students, or about 34%, receiving weekly additional literacy instruction. This additional instruction is supported by approved high-quality instructional materials and curricula, and it's either provided by interventionists at the school, specialists, or trained tutors during the established 30-minute differentiation block in math and literacy during the school day. Therefore, students are not missing their core instructional time with their classroom teacher. In collaboration with central office departments, each school conducted a thorough analysis of multiple data points, reviewed the outcomes for the different student reporting groups, determined school needs, and then collaboratively developed a school improvement plan with goals, objectives, evidence-based strategies, and actions designed to improve student outcomes. This school improvement plan was then reviewed by the Department of School Leadership and is monitored quarterly throughout the school year. This picture on the slide of some 5th grade students at Matthew Whaley Elementary designing and conducting the Dance of the Molecules experiment reminded me of our school teams and how they develop an improvement plan, how they review data, how they observe outcomes and monitor progress and meet and discuss and adapt when they need to. Additionally, due to the federal identification for both of these elementary schools, each school created a school improvement grant application seeking funding to support each school's improvement efforts. $45,150 is the maximum grant award amount for schools that have been federally identified as targeted support and improvement. As with most grant applications, the school improvement grant has clearly defined parameters outlining allowable and non-allowable expenditure items. For example, allowable items may include compensation for teachers who are meeting beyond their contract hours to create instructional plans, professional learning opportunities for these teachers, contracted services, or other instructional support materials, but all must be aligned to the school's improvement plan and ultimately approved by the Virginia Department of Education. Non-allowable items would be using awarded grant funds to hire extra personnel, such as a grant application manager, or an additional teacher, or additional staff members. Those are not allowed. Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Kiever, that concludes the presentation, and I ask that you review the information that's posted in board docs and vote to approve the grant application and school plans for both elementary schools at the March 24th school board meeting so that we can then submit that information to the Virginia Department of Education for its review process and potential awarding of the funds. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
One quick question.
Yes.
How many students have both math and literacy interventions?
I don't have that exact number. They may cross over. Roughly, I believe we have more students receiving literacy intervention, which is directly tied to the VALS state literacy screener.
Okay.
And so about 1/3 of each elementary school. Math tends to be a little lower.
Thank you.
Ms. Chen?
Oh, I didn't have a question. I was just
Oh, you're
letting you
indicating
know
for
that
me to
Dr.
go over there.
Kubasa
Yes, Ms. Henley.
As far as using the grants for teachers to do tutoring, if we don't have enough teachers, does that get extended to community members, or typically do we have enough teachers that are willing to work a whole day and then stay after even additionally for additional tutoring?
So the two school improvement grant applications that are posted in board docs, roughly 75% to 80% for both of the two elementary schools applications are for paying our teachers who are working beyond contract hours, whether that be for collaboration, instructional planning, professional learning, supporting student needs.
Are we able to use those funds though if our teachers are not able to participate or just the parameters?
Yeah.
I think part of the reason that we wanted Mr. Walker to really talk about the things that were allowable and the things that were not allowable is that while let me make this caveated statement as well. It is a requirement that you submit a grant application.
That is correct.
This is not a grant of choice. This is a grant of requirement based on the federal identification. There also, I feel like, are very specific parameters around how you can use that grant money. And while we appreciate the additional dollars that we may be able to provide our teachers for going above and beyond their contract hours, the guardrails are particularly tight in terms of our ability to navigate and think of innovative solutions. In some ways, I see this submission as a perfunctory submission because it is a requirement. The other challenge is we may not get funded at the full level that we're asking for based on the fact that 34% of schools within the Commonwealth of Virginia are also submitting similar grants as a requirement. I didn't mean to cut you. Am I okay
Perfect.
there?
Thank
Okay.
you, Dr. Cooper. Thank you.
Comments? From a board perspective, as we're visiting Matthew Whaley and James River, how can we support them as they're going through this year?
I think recognize their efforts, encourage them, be there, that positive morale, and recognize the great things that are happening at those two schools because there are tremendous things that are happening to support the students. And the staff at both of those schools work tirelessly. They're two phenomenal schools.
Yeah, I was a Matthew Whaley parent, as I believe Miss Chen was as well, and so I think we can attest to the wonderful things that are happening
Yes.
in that building.
Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Keever.
All right, we will move on to item 6.01, WJCC Schools Foundation Annual Status Report.
Madam Chair, yeah, we're
We
excited
just
that
wanted Mr. Kelly to remember what it was like to sit through an entire board meeting.
if we wanted that, we would have moved him to the very end.
I know. We're not that cruel, especially when they're the ones that give our teachers so much wonderful money, so we can't torture them too much.
I will admit to having had a little PTSD here tonight.
You can stay for budget is next.
Yeah, hold my spot if I'm not here. I'll be right back.
Welcome, Mr. Kelly.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, Dr. Keever, members of the administration. It is my pleasure to be here tonight to give you the annual report for the WJCC Schools Foundation and answer any questions you may have. I'd like to thank Mrs. Chen for serving as the school board representative on the foundation board this year, and I sympathize with her as she has the unenviable task of stepping into the spot previously filled by Mrs. Hundley. This has been a challenging time for the foundation as we started off the year with the unexpected passing of our longtime chair and a generally amazing lady, Penny Pulley. No one person can replace Penny, and I am both amazed and proud as how the foundation board pulled together to power through the events of this year and make it a tremendous success. It has been an educational year for me and learning all of the activities of the foundation and learning all that goes into making these events such a tremendous success. We've had some stumbles, quick recoveries, but overall it's been a very good year. As you are aware, the mission of the WJCC Schools Foundation is to partner with the community to provide resources that enrich teaching, inspire learning, and maximize innovative opportunities to help WJCC public schools meet their goals of education excellence for all students. Since the foundation started in 2015, the foundation has sponsored innovative learning grants where our teachers propose innovative ideas to foster learning and creativity in our students. We have exceptional teachers here in WJCC, and the grants have ranged from kindergartners in lab coats raising chicks from eggs to 3D printers, activities to enrich the arts, and everything in between. We can be proud of our teachers for presenting their ideas in these great grant proposals, and to our community for providing the resources to put these ideas into action. For the past 10 years, the foundation has been funded primarily by direct contributions and fundraising efforts. The foundation has enjoyed broad support from the community, which I believe illustrates how much this community supports and values our public schools. Since our founding in 2015, the WJCC Schools Foundation has awarded over $350,000 in innovative learning grants. Michael Willen and his committee do a great job reviewing the grant proposals and making the difficult decisions on which grants to fund. On Valentine's Day in 2025, we awarded a little over $40,000 for 21 grants, which reached 25 teachers. This year, on January 20th, 2026, the foundation was able to fund 37 learning grants worth over $75,000. Thanks to Dr. Keever and Mrs. Chen for helping us pass out those oversized checks. That's always a fun day. We were able to accomplish this through the generous donations of businesses and members of the community, but also through a new event, an evening on the lawn, which was held on October 9th at the William & Mary Business School. On behalf of the foundation, I would like to express my thanks to the school board for sponsoring a table, and it was so great to see so many of you in attendance. It was an amazing evening, and the foundation board members who pulled the evening on the lawn together did a fabulous job. I want to thank Lauren Harris, Tracy Simmons, and Amy Ritchie and their merry band of volunteers for their leadership and the tremendous efforts they put into organizing the event. It certainly exceeded my expectations. Preparations are well underway for next year's event, so please stay tuned for an announcement. The foundation continues to support the Teacher Supply Store and participates in the Williamsburg Christmas Parade each year. Dr. Keever and the school system assist with the Christmas Parade by making mascots from each of the schools available to walk down Duke of Gloucester Street with us. It's so much fun to hear the excitement in the kids' voices as they recognize their school's mascot and start calling their names. Marching in parades is not my thing, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. We will once again be assisting with the Teacher of the Year and Support Staff of the Year awards in May, and we look forward to recognizing our amazing employees who do such a great job serving our students and our community. With this being the 10th year of the foundation, we'll be doing some introspection as we review our mission, vision, and activities and look to chart a course for our next 10 years. As the foundation has matured and the school system has grown, we will be asking ourselves if we were doing all that we need to be doing and all that we should be doing. I can't thank the members of the Foundation Board for all they have done to meet the unique challenges of this past year, and to the Foundation donors for continuing to provide their generous support year after year for our students, for our teachers, and to make our school system one of the best in the state. Thank you, Madam Chair, and that's my report for the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Any comments from our board? Ms. Chen, I don't know if anything you'd like to say?
I just was waiting to see if anyone else wanted to say anything. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I'm very happy to be serving on the board this year, and just want to say a huge thank you for all the ways in which you're supporting our division and our teachers and our students in their learning, and it's just an incredible partnership. I can't believe that we're celebrating 10 years. I remember when I was a parent of two little ones and it was just getting started, and it was just very exciting. So it's great to see how much it's grown over time. And I know that we're all on the board. I think I can speak for all of us. I'm hoping that we can go in on a table again and support the event in the fall. So that would be a wonderful way for us to continue to partner and to support the work that the foundation is doing.
Yeah, I really appreciated seeing you guys have a table and participating. That was really great. And as far as when the foundation started, I think it was probably my first meeting on the school board back in 2010. They talked about a foundation, and I'm like, I got 3 feet of paper to read. I don't have time for all of that. But Jim Nichols really pushed that through, and it was one of the big things with hiring Dr. Constantino was the start of foundation. And so it's been a great. And I remember the first breakfast that we had, and I showed up, and the room was full, and I was just stunned. So, I think it really shows how much the community supports our schools.
Absolutely. Mrs. Hunley.
And I was happy to share the role with Miss Jen. We've been doing so much together lately that we're referred to as the Bobbsey twins. But when you mentioned the chicks and the lab coats, that was my first year getting that grant, and those lab coats are now used to dissect, not only for the chicks, but also to dissect, to become doctors to dissect letters and things for operations, to learn how to read and write. And it's always just wonderful to even see them years later. Miss Chen and I were just at Matthew Whaley, and Mr. Staley had pulled out the guitars that he had received, and to see that he's using them K5, the guitars. So it's a wonderful, wonderful grant, and it's exciting to see it continue. 10 years it went like that.
Yes, it has. Yes,
Thank you.
Any other comments from board members? Well, no, we are just so appreciative of all that you do for our staff and for our students, just having the opportunity for those innovative grants. And sometimes it's just a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 that makes a huge difference. And so being able to have you all support some of those things that are small but mighty, we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, I think the teachers it's not necessarily the value of the money, it's just that we're here to support you. I think it really helps the teachers.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly.
Well, I would love to stay for the budget discussion.
Oh. Well, given that we're doing budget and we're going to talk redistricting, you don't.
Oh, I'm way out of here.
Oh, this is the highlight. You're getting like the best of the best.
I'm going to have PTSD.
We are going to take a brief recess until 6 o'clock, and we will be back at the top of the hour for more fun and games. Yes. Applause for the cause. And we will now move on to item 6.02, redistricting process update.
Madam Chair, thank you. Cara Wall, who is leading our process on redistricting and working with a committee of folks. It's important for us, and she's here tonight to give us an update. It's important, I think, for us to continue to ensure that our community, our families, our staff are well informed about the necessity that is redistricting for WJCC. So Cara is going to lay out some of the work that has been done and give us a preview of things to come. Cara?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Again, I will start our update by taking a look back at what we've already accomplished. As our community knows, we are excited to open 2 new pre-K spaces in fall 2027. As our pre-K students transition into the new spaces, some of our elementary schools will gain capacity. That's where the pre-K students currently are being served. And some elementary schools will remain at or over capacity. Those are the buildings where pre-K students are not currently served. This transition offers us the opportunity to review attendance zones and opportunities for efficiencies and reflection on building utilization and feeder patterns across all levels. It was that scope of work, considering boundary options across all levels, that was first discussed in December 2024. Following an RFP process, a contract was awarded to MGT Impact Solutions in March 25 to guide our division through this work. In June, the school board engaged in conversation with MGT and administration around guiding principles, and then MGT presented initial student data and analysis to the board in December. The Redistricting Steering Committee has met several times so far, with several more meetings to come, to bring together the data and guiding principles in developing alternate attendance zone scenarios. The guiding principles are the anchor for the steering committee's work. As you look at the list, you may note that the principles may conflict or tug at one another. What does each principle mean? Utilization takes a division-wide perspective at all levels in considering school capacities and growth trends. Demographics considers racial and ethnic diversity as well as socioeconomic indicators within schools. Neighborhood schools, working to maintain proximity between schools and homes. Transportation, considering transportation impacts and work toward limiting the amount of time required for students to be on a bus. Minimizing impact would be minimizing disruption where possible. And feeder patterns, avoiding the split of small cohorts of students from their peers in the transition to middle school and high school. While the school board originally saw this information in December, I'd like to walk through it again to orient you to this table with lots and lots of numbers. I'm competing with Mr. Walker. Going down the far left side, you see each row represents one grade level K to 12. Across the top, each column represents a year. 3 previous years, the current 25-26 year, and projections for the next 10 years. So the 3 historic years and current years are actual data. The projected years are the forecast. Historical data, so the stair step that you see, the historical data informs our mobility factor, how a cohort progresses with us or how a cohort changes as it ages through the system. Planned development in those future years impacts the forecast. And the shaded area here represents known and projected birth rates that impact the forecast as students in future years enroll in kindergarten and matriculate through the system. Overall, the bottom row of data totals the known and projected amount of K-12 students each year. While overall enrollment remains relatively stable around 11,000, where the students physically reside within the division is something we're, of course, mindful of in this process. Related to where students reside within the division or may reside in the future, this table reflects known development over the next 10 years and where the units are expected within our current elementary attendance areas. While this is organized and displayed by current elementary attendance zones, it's important to be mindful of the impact development would have at the middle and high school levels too. For example, the 1,700 units anticipated in the current Stonehouse attendance area are also currently connected to the Toano Middle School and War Hill High School attendance areas. This chart, I believe, best illustrates why we're engaging in this conversation. In the foreground, you see a series of 3 blue bars. The darkest bar on the left of the series represents current K-5 enrollment at each of our elementary schools. The middle and light blue bars of each series represent projected K-5 enrollment at each elementary school in 2028 and 2030, respectively. The gray bar in the background represents that school's capacity within its physical building. Clara Bird Baker is the set of bars on the far left. CBB currently hosts pre-K students. With the pre-K students served in the new buildings and removed from this CBB chart, you see the gray bar represents building capacity at 662, whereas the blue bars represent current and projected K-5 enrollment. You can see there being capacity then. On the far right, Stonehouse, it's difficult to see the gray capacity bar as current and projected K-5 enrollment currently surpass capacity within the physical building. As mentioned earlier, the steering committee will continue its work this spring, driving toward opportunities in May to engage the community in conversation and through surveys around a proposed boundary scenario. Further reflection and refinement will continue over the summer and early fall with the superintendent's proposed attendance zones presented to the school board for consideration in October. And again, that's with a mindset of implementation in the 27-28 school year, along with the opening of the pre-K spaces. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Questions, comments?
Ms. Wall, information on the redistricting process is available where?
All of it's on our website. You can go through dozens of pages and charts if you didn't get your fill this evening. In the About menu on WJCCschools.org, just look for redistricting.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wall. I anticipate these things as we get further along. We'll get more questions, but thank you so much.
Probably not a one. Probably no additional questions as we get further in redistricting.
All right. We will move on to 6.02 Student Voices Tour Feedback.
Madam Chair, as we get settled for this presentation, some of my most impactful and amazing days as superintendent are spent when I get to talk directly to our students about their learning. And we are going to provide for you an overview presentation on some of that learning, but I want the board and the viewing public to be aware that at a meeting with students last week during the Student Voices Tour, I was provided with 2 lists of things that students wanted me to specifically know that may or may not come up during the course of that conversation. Let me read just a couple of those to you. Be more reasonable about snow days. Yeah, exactly. House Bill 873, please support because it increases daily physical activity from 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day. Make the learning units longer. Elementary school should be earlier, from 8 to 2:30 instead of 9:30 to 4. Middle schooler, and they didn't even know my absolute desire to see us change start times. Middle schoolers and high schoolers later. Letting kids know more about important information and giving homework at an earlier grade level. So these are just some of the examples that students provided me with a list. As we continue to refine our Elevate to 28 action plans, it is essential that we remain committed to grounding our work in the voices of those that we serve, our students. And this was our 2nd annual Student Voices Tour, a continuation of the practice we started last year. This year, we added elementary students into that practice and heard directly from 4th and 5th graders. In the evolving educational landscape, it is important to maintain authentic dialogue with our students and to ensure that there is essential and meaningful improvement in our work. I wanted the community, the board to know that this tour was a team effort. On several days, we visited multiple schools, and it was draining, but also incredibly rewarding. Ms. Trott is going to provide an overview of the tour, and then each topic's facilitator will share some of the key themes from their respective discussion topics. Elena, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and fellow board members. In our second year of the Student Voices Tour, we expanded our efforts to include our elementary schools, an important step that allowed division leaders to visit all 16 of our schools. In total, our team engaged 320 students in grades 4 through 12, dedicating 17 hours to direct in-person listening sessions focused entirely on students' lived experiences and feedback on what's working and where we can improve. In preparation for each visit, principals were asked to identify a diverse group of students representing multiple grade levels and the neighborhoods they serve. They also selected students across a range of achievement levels, including those receiving tiered supports for academics, attendance, and behavior, as well as students actively involved in co-curricular and extracurricular programs such as performing arts, athletics, and career and technical education. This intentional approach ensured that the feedback we gathered reflects the wide range of experiences across our division. As you may recall, this fall we shared the results of our Elevate 28 survey comparing stakeholder feedback from the fall of 2024 to the fall of 2025. While the data reflected overall positive movement across most survey items, it also revealed a continued gap between adult and student perceptions, particularly in the areas of student learning and school climate and culture. In response, this year's Student Voices Tour was intentionally designed to dig deeper into those differences. Our goal was to better understand and identify specific opportunities for growth so that every student feels connected, supported, and positioned for success within our learning community. During each visit, we centered our conversations around 4 key topics aligned to our Elevate 28 priorities. These focus areas provided consistency across schools while still allowing space for students to share authentic school-specific experiences. First was student learning experiences. We asked students to reflect on what meaningful learning looks and feels like in their classrooms. We explored engagement, rigor, relevance, and the feedback they receive from their teachers, along with the supports available when learning becomes challenging. Students shared what helps them learn best and where they see opportunities to strengthen instruction. Second was blended learning. As technology continues to play a significant role in our classrooms, we invited students to discuss how digital tools and in-person instruction work together. We gathered feedback on balance, clarity of expectations, access to digital resources, and how blended learning impacts their engagement and understanding. Third was student transitions. With the expansion of the tour to include elementary schools, we were able to examine transitions across every level, elementary to middle, middle to high, and preparation beyond high school. Students shared what made transitions smooth, where they experienced uncertainty, and what additional supports could better prepare them for the next phase of their educational journey. Finally, with school climate and culture, we explored students' sense of belonging, relationships with peers and staff, safety, inclusivity, and overall school pride. These conversations provided important insight into whether students feel seen, heard, and valued within our school communities. Together, these 4 areas gave us a comprehensive understanding of students' day-to-day experiences and highlighted both strengths to celebrate and opportunities for growth. Overall, our students were transparent, vulnerable, and optimistic in sharing their experiences and ideas. But don't take our word for it. Here's what they had to say about our time together.
Today we got to meet Dr. Keever and some of the other people from central office, and we got to talk to them about how we feel our school district, WJCC, could improve.
To talk with some of the school leaders about things we think should be implemented in schools or should be paid more attention to.
Really talk about our struggles and our good aspects of each school, and I'm glad I was able to understand how we can improve and what we can change to make not just our schools better, but our district as a whole.
Tell people that what we thought about our school. Just having the ability to have your voice heard Because if you have something that kind of stands out to you in your class that you don't really like, you can talk about it and almost like fix the problem and get it out of the way.
It's important for the adults to listen to the kids because we need to be heard.
People can see from their perspectives and not just think of us as, okay, the children don't like, yeah.
We can make sure that we're all having a good time and learning what we need to learn.
I actually felt really safe that I could express my feelings.
I think it's really important for students to be a part of these discussions because a teacher can't necessarily know what's going on in a student's life until they hear about it from the student themselves.
Glad I got the opportunity to, because I think it's very important that students are heard.
It helps everybody in the school system, and it's also nice for the student to think that their voice is heard and that it is.
I hope that they really listened and took in everything that all the kids had to say.
It shows as a district with everyone and our new superintendent that we care and that not just you're just making these decisions and not letting us know what's going on, that we're involved, that we are a part of this decision.
Now let's dive into some of the specific feedback these amazing students shared with us. Our directors of curriculum and instruction, Robin Ford and Courtney Mompoint, will give an overview of student feedback related to learning.
Good evening again. We asked our 4th and 5th grade students to reflect on their learning experiences, specifically in reading and math. We centered our conversations around 4 focus questions. What is something you are proud of this year? During reading and math, when do you feel most successful? When reading or math feels hard, what helps you most? And if you could change one thing about reading and math, what would it be? Together, these questions allow us to better understand not just how students are performing, but how they are experiencing their learning. Their responses can guide our instructional decisions, strengthen our practices, and ensure we are creating environments where all students can grow, feel successful, and remain motivated. While grades, particularly improved grades, were mentioned often by students as indicators of success, they expressed pride also in mastering challenging math skills such as long division and solving problems that require multi-digit operations. Students recognize their reading skills are improving when they can read and comprehend more difficult text and can cite evidence to support their responses. And many students spoke to the fact that they are proud that they are now completing longer writing assignments. Across the schools, students most frequently identify feeling successful in reading and math when they earn strong grades, recognize they have improved their ability to apply a learned strategy or complete a specific type of task, particularly those that require high-level skills, and receive positive feedback from their teachers. When learning feels hard, students benefit most from direct teacher help, having a skill retaught with a small group of peers, collaborating with peers to solve problems, being given the choice of clear strategies and tools that best fit their needs, especially visual supports, the opportunity to take short breaks before returning to learning and practice, and encouraging feedback. Students are motivated when learning involves engaging delivery, greater choice, opportunities to interact, having flexibility with strategies and tools to meet their learning styles, and learning activities that are paced to their needs. Our young learners truly know themselves as students and were able to give us very specific feedback.
Good evening. As we continue to reimagine learning experiences for students in WJCC, we asked students 3 questions. What does success really look like? What learning experiences feel meaningful? And how do you learn best? These questions allowed us to move beyond assumptions and focus on what our students believe prepares them for life after graduation, whether that pathway includes college, career, military service, or immediate entry into the workforce. From the questions we posed, 4 clear themes emerged. First, students consistently define success in terms of skills and mindset, rather than grades alone. They emphasize perseverance, responsibility, time management, collaboration, communication, and self-advocacy. This reinforces that our students understand success as preparation for life, not just performance on a transcript. Second, students shared that learning feels most meaningful when it is relevant and connected to real-world application. They want to see how what they're learning translates into careers, community impact, and their future goals. Third, students express a strong desire for voice, choice, and collaboration. They value opportunities to make decisions about their learning, work with peers, and engage in discussions rather than solely passive instruction. Finally, when students recognize that tests have a role, they told us they learn more deeply through projects, presentations, performance tasks, and real-world applications that require critical thinking and problem solving. In a follow-up question, when asked where we could improve their learning experience, students were very clear. They want more intentional focus on organization, time management, and life planning skills. While they feel school develops academic knowledge well, they are asking us to better support the practical habits and future planning skills that help them manage adulthood successfully. Collectively, this feedback provides us with both affirmation and direction as we continue strengthening secondary learning experiences in WJCC.
Thank you. At this time, we'll pause to see if you had any questions for Mrs. Ford or Mrs. Mompoint. Okay, we'll move on to the second topic. Joining us is Kristen Barr, Supervisor for Instructional Technology Innovation and Information Literacy, and she's going to give an overview of our conversation about blended learning.
Good evening. For this topic, we wanted to gather student feedback about how often students complete work on their computers and for what purpose. We also wanted to continue our conversations with students around the use of generative AI for teaching and learning. Most students, grades 4 through 12, reported using their computers daily. The amount of time using them, though, varied based on teacher. Many indicated that teachers newer to the profession relied on computers more than veteran teachers, and the subject area, with greatest use in English and math at the elementary level and widespread use in secondary. Some students reported using their devices minimally, less than an hour per day for programs such as IXL, while others estimated using them more than half of each class. Students were split, reporting their learning preference, but most indicated that use of the computers kept them more organized and allowed them to get quicker feedback compared to submitting paperwork. While many students acknowledge that much of the work they complete on the computers could be done with paper and pencil, they shared that when given the opportunity to record or create using technology, they felt their learning was deeper. This supports our continued work on intentional, balanced technology integration using blended learning strategies to transform learning experiences. Finally, regarding generative AI, students reported that most, if not all, of their teachers utilize generative AI for lesson preparation and resources. This follows a series of professional learning held this year at each school as part of our Division AI Ambassador Program, led collaboratively with staff from William & Mary. Some students reported that their assignment directions have started to include parameters for their use of generative AI, but others reported it's still off limits. All students shared that they believe skills for use of generative AI will be necessary in their future after high school, regardless of the path they envision taking.
I think you will pause for any questions about blended learning. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Barr. Joining us is Jessica Walter, Director of School Counseling and College and Career Readiness, who will share our students' feedback around their previous and future transitions.
Good evening. For the topic of student transitions, we asked similar questions to elementary and middle school students regarding incoming kindergartners and sixth graders, and then also related to their thoughts and feelings about their next transition to either middle school or high school. Current elementary students provided great advice and feedback for incoming kindergartners, with one of the most common themes being kindness. Students strongly associated success with kindness and positive relationships with peers and school staff. Students also stressed the importance of following the rules and making good choices while in school. The 4th and 5th graders consistently shared that it was important that kindergartners believe in themselves and understand that there are people at school who can help them with their academics, emotions, and peer relationships. They wanted new students to feel welcomed, supported, and reassured. For our current middle schoolers, a consistent theme for advice for incoming sixth graders was to be respectful, listen to your teachers, stay out of drama, and choose your friends wisely. Students stress the importance of getting involved in order to try new things, meet new people, and feel connected. Academically, they stress the importance of staying organized, working hard, and building a routine. Middle school students also felt it was important for new sixth graders to know and remember that there are people at school that can help you and to ask when you need it. When thinking about their transition to middle school, elementary students are excited about the increased independence they will have, including not having to walk in lines, choosing their classes, and transitioning from class to class throughout the day. The majority of students are also excited about opportunities to participate in sports and clubs, meeting new people, both peers and teachers, and having lunch with their friends in a large cafeteria. Academically, most students are excited about experiencing more challenging work, being held accountable, and becoming smarter. Current middle school students are excited about going to high school to have increased class choice and more advanced and rigorous course options. They're excited to experience greater freedom and independence while also having more options for sports and clubs to become involved in. Many students look at high school as a fresh start, academically and socially. For high school students, we also asked questions related to incoming ninth graders, but when thinking about the next transition for this group of students, we focused on what things they wished or hope to learn in high school before moving on to their next step. The majority of current high school students felt it was important to prepare new ninth graders for the increased workload and expectations at high school and felt that middle school did not adequately prepare them for this level of change. Students felt it was important for ninth graders to take their freshman year seriously because it can impact opportunities available to them down the road. Students identified essential skills that are important for high school success, including time management, organization, managing their course loads, and to not overload on AP courses, but to prioritize balance and well-being. Students also stressed the importance of choosing your friends carefully and to not change who you are to fit in with others' expectations. When thinking about next steps after high school and skills they hope or hoped were more developed, most students shared the need for more direct instruction and support on life skills, especially those associated with financial structures such as taxes or how to read a pay stub, basic household and maintenance skills, and overall, how to adult, as many students referred to it. Students also shared the need for increased career awareness and exploration opportunities multiple times during each year across all 4 years of high school, along with more consistent support and instruction in executive functioning and academic skills such as time management, organization, note-taking, and study strategies. Many students also expressed a desire to have gradual increases in responsibility throughout high school because they feel over-supported in high school compared to what they feel they will experience in adulthood. Many also stressed the importance of maintaining mental health, understanding and managing sleep habits, and managing pressure related to future decisions, with multiple students sharing they felt significant pressure to know their future too early. Academically, students shared that they felt it was important that skills be revisited consistently across grade levels, and they would have benefited from more interactive and hands-on learning throughout high school.
Thank you. We'll pause to see if there's any questions relative to student transition. Great. Thank you, Mrs. Walter. Dr. Adam Brown, Senior Director of Student Services, will give an overview of our conversation around school climate and culture.
Thank you. Good evening. For the topic of school culture and climate, we've asked 3 questions which served as a launching point to an in-depth conversation on the topics of school culture, student-to-student interactions, and additional ways to meet student needs. This allowed our team to better understand students' experiences in school and to hear their ideas of additional supports or opportunities that would be beneficial. Most students in the focus groups indicated that they do have positive relationships with peers. While some conflicts do occur, they did not indicate significant concerns around other students' behaviors and the impact of those behaviors on the opportunities to learn for themselves. However, a common theme did emerge that interpersonal conflicts do occur from time to time, whether it's between individual students or peer groups. Sometimes the origination of these concerns were from misunderstandings, issues outside of school, and I quote, gossip. During these situations, students expressed the need for continued skill building to help deal with these conflicts. All students indicated that they had a support staff available when needed to address these conflicts. Many positive factors related to school climate were shared during the student discussions. Students in middle and high schools in particular indicated that participation in after-school and extracurricular activities had a significant positive impact on their connection to the school. At the middle school level, these opportunities are mostly connected to sports, and these students supported increasing available club opportunities to appeal to a greater percentage of students in their schools. Students also reported high levels of school spirit and motivation stemming from our current school efforts to build a positive climate. These include house systems, student recognitions and celebrations, and other events where students earn opportunities through successful academic, behavioral, and attendance efforts. All students indicated that school rules are clearly communicated. However, they felt that a continued focus on reinforcing rules and motivating students in areas outside of the classroom, like recess, cafeteria, and the bus, are needed. This is currently being discussed by the Code of Conduct Committee. Finally, students asked for increased flexibility throughout the school day. At the elementary level, this included opportunities to experience class changes while in the 5th grade to prepare them for middle school, more breaks during the day, consideration of extended recess. Additionally, at the secondary level, additional student voice was needed to determine their high school and post-graduation pathways.
Any questions for Dr. Brown? Thank you. As we reflect on what we heard from students across all 16 schools, these emerging themes represent consistency throughout the tour. Our work moving forward is centered on turning student feedback into meaningful action. Overall, students expressed a desire to focus more on mastering skills and tracking personal growth rather than concentrating only on grades, and they asked for greater choice and voice in their learning experiences. They highlighted the value of hands-on, project-based learning and emphasized the importance of real-world connections that make learning relevant and meaningful. Many students also shared the need for stronger support in executive functioning and independent living skills, such as the time management, organization, communication, financial literacy, and career exploration. Additionally, students spoke about using technology in ways that promote creativity and collaboration and ensuring access to co-curricular and extracurricular activities and programs. This is a summary. As we reflected on the feedback from this year's tour, it was clear that what we heard directly aligns with the priority action steps in our superintendent's transition plan. In many ways, our students affirmed that we are on the right track. Students' emphasis on skill development and growth connects to our work around a strong profile of a learner, while their feedback on engagement and instructional consistency reinforces the importance of designing a teaching and learning framework. Their perspectives on using technology to truly enhance learning validate our focus on the purposeful integration of digital tools, and their interest in showcasing meaningful work supports expanding student exhibitions of learning. Students' call for relevant hands-on experiences and clearer pathways beyond high school aligns with our commitment to real-world learning and workforce readiness options, and their feedback about belonging and engagement through extracurricular opportunities affirms the need for a clear key performance indicator for student activities and programs. Finally, their desire for greater input in decisions supports strengthening student leadership opportunities and the establishment of student advisory councils at both the division and school levels. Overall, students confirmed that the vision outlined in the transition plan reflects what they value and need, and reinforcing that our work is aligned with their lived experiences. That concludes our team's presentation, and we're happy to take any additional questions.
Thank you, Ms. Trott. Any questions or comments from the board? Yes, Ms. Hunley.
Yeah, one thing I want to say that I did notice that there was a student and that was signing, and that was very important because that's everybody's voice, even though they couldn't do it auditorially. That just and I also saw another child that looked physically that there was something, but they were part of the group, and that's one thing that I definitely noticed. And I know the three of us went to the slam poetry thing, and the students, the high school students, the theme was a lot about what we saw here. It was about how does my peers see me, make up what's important, and the pressure of doing what your parents like, take those AP classes, are you studying? So that was a common theme, even through their poetry, spoken word. And to just see that come out also here, it makes me know that we're right on target for what our young people are saying. And a lot of times I've seen where students are on panels and the adults will hear them and go, oh, no, that's not, but we are really listening, and that's really hard to do when you want to give input on or not validate what they're going through. So I'm very happy to see the tours, and I hope they continue.
Thank you.
Other comments?
There were some tough conversations with students that were particularly direct, and I think that's impactful for us as division leaders and administrators. And I'm excited about the process that we'll be utilizing in all of our schools relative to advisory councils of students. I think that's important. I think that our students have key insights to share, and the more we can understand those insights and help operationalize or activate some of those insights, the better the experience will be for everybody involved. So it was, as I mentioned, there were draining days with 3 and 4 visits, but they were some of the best days that I've had in the last month or so. So
I think it's also just, as you were saying, from elementary on up, the focus on the sense of belonging that students want, and some of the thinking about the choices that they make in terms of their friendships, in terms of their own self-management and regulation. And so I think it's, sometimes there's conversations around, should we be teaching those skills as part of a school, right? Is from an academic perspective, and what some folks call the social-emotional learning. And I think as you hear from these students, this is an important part of how they are learning to navigate from kindergarten all the way up, of how do you choose friendships, how do you self-regulate, how do you understand when you're being overwhelmed and need to have better executive functioning, when do you need to sleep. And I think this shows that these are important skills that when we take the time to invest in teaching that to our kids, it's something that they're yearning. And we're giving them those opportunities. So I think that reinforces some of the things we're doing that are not beyond the academics. So thank you. Right,
thank you, Ms. Trott.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Round in the corner. We're on the back of the page. We're on to action items. Action item 7.01, approval of personnel actions. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Aller?
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. Our next action item is 7.02, approval of the fiscal year 2027 budget.
I'll go ahead and read my statement. As a member of the School Board of Williamsburg, James City County, I acknowledge that I may have an interest in the fiscal year 27 school budget because my husband is an employee of the WJCC schools. However, I believe that I am able to participate in the consideration of and vote on the budget fairly, objectively, and in the public interest.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Yeah, we'll do a motion, then we'll go into discussion. All right. May I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget in the amount of $220,245,000. I'll say that again, sorry, $220,245,000, which includes $202,715,000 for the operating fund, $7,100,000 for the grants fund, $1,337,000 for the state operated programs fund, and $9,093,000 for the child nutrition services fund.
Thank you, Mrs. Chen. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. We'll open up for discussion.
Yes, ma'am. And maybe prior to that discussion, Ms. Ewing and I would like to update the board on just a couple of items in terms of the fiscal year 27 budget. As we are positioning ourselves for that presentation, a couple of key pieces that I wanted to keep everybody apprised of. Piece number one is that we are asking the board to adopt the fiscal year budget somewhat earlier than we've asked boards to do in the past. That is in keeping with our work with both the city and county in terms of ensuring that our budget requests are in front of them as they are getting involved in their budgeting discussions. So we're a couple of weeks ahead of what we normally do. That's based on the strong work of our finance team and our division leadership from my perspective. The other piece of this is that there are still some unknowns relative to the operating budget for fiscal 27. A key unknown is what's going to happen in terms of the state budget and how the different scenarios playing out right now in the House and the Senate, and ultimately what the General Assembly decides on will have an impact on WJCC. The third item that I want to mention is that I know that healthcare is an item and a concept that we've talked quite a bit about. We are still relatively early in the new plan year, and as we get additional data, we will continue to keep the board apprised in a lead up into approving the final spending plan, which will occur in the middle part of May. So Renee and I want to walk you and the viewing public through our latest numbers and what we're asking you to approve this evening. Renee?
Thank you, Dr. Keith. This slide summarizes the information previously presented as part of the superintendent's proposed budget. Total new revenue is projected at $10.6 million based on Governor Youngkin's budget for state revenue and the base revenue increase from the localities included in the new joint agreement. Expenditures outlined in the superintendent's proposed budget totaled approximately $12.6 million, leaving a gap of approximately $1.92 million. This is the amount that would require an above baseline request to our localities. After our last discussion regarding health care on February 17th, we reviewed multiple areas to identify strategic adjustments. Administration recommends the following: increasing the spousal health insurance surcharge from $75 to $125 per month, which will allow us to shift $288,000 back into the budget. Secondly, we recommend increasing the salary adjustment for our lowest paid employees from 3.5% to 4%, which is an investment of $144,000. And lastly, raising attrition savings by an additional $551,000 based on historical savings and current year projections. Collectively, these adjustments produce a net decrease of $695,000 in expenditures.
Items that are now included within the base budget adjustments that Ms. Ewing just described. The $695,000 in budget capacity generated by the adjustments will allow us to add several high priority items into the operating budget. That includes 4 elementary teaching assistants for behavior support. If you recall, we are already planning to repurpose 5 existing positions, so by adding the 4 positions into the operating budget, it is our intention that each elementary school will have a dedicated teacher assistant for support purposes next year. In addition, we are able to add in the elementary math coach that will allow for dedicated support in each of our elementary schools over the course of the year. The inclusion or addition of a social worker to help us ensure there are wraparound supports for our students, a coordinator for student supports and counseling as we continue to look at the graduate action plan concept. 1 of the 2 maintenance assistants that we initially requested to allow us to continue to be more proactive versus reactive in supporting our buildings. And then we're really excited to add in $175,000 for initial funding for the JROT cost share model. We believe, based on some conversations recently, that there is a possibility that we will be in position to begin a program in the fall of 26. As such, we want to go ahead and put that into the operating budget for fiscal 27 so that if the money becomes available from the federal government, we are primed and ready to go for the fall of 26. If that does not happen, the benefit in adding it into the operating budget in fiscal 27 is that we anticipate the possibility of learning in the early fall that would be available to us in the fall of 26, that we would know to be able to start something in the fall of 27, which would allow us to hire the professionals into the role and help build out the program to start that. So we believe in JROTC. We want to start that program, and adding this into the $695,000 allows us to do that. What are those items then that would still be considered in the above and beyond request of the locality? The gifted resource teacher, the 2 school security officers. I should mention that we are pursuing the state grant for the school security. There's a local match, but there's a possibility we may be able to pull those in later. The central support staff that we'd asked for in terms of an HR coordinator, finance support, the second maintenance assistant. Outside of the operating budget number is also the 0.5 hour increase for related services. In our current iteration of the budget, those folks would work 7.5 hours. Outside of that is the additional half hour that takes them to 8 hours. We also believe that if the cost share model is not available, we definitely want to start a cadet program. We need to ensure there's funding for that in fiscal 27 or 28. And then lacrosse right now is just outside of that base budget request.
This table provides another view of the overall revenue and expenditure relationship in the revised fiscal year 27 plan. As shown, the adjustments help narrow the gap, but we still require an above and beyond request for the budget to meet identified student, instructional, and operational needs. And this table provides an overall summary of the different revenue categories for the updated fiscal year 27 budget, with the overall operating budget totaling $202,715,000. Across all funds, operating grants, state-operated programs, and nutrition services, the proposed fiscal year 27 budget totals approximately $220.2 million, an increase of $12 million overall. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Questions from the board or comments? If there are none, are you ready for the vote? Okay, Ms. Aller?
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. Thank you. We will now go on to agenda item 7.03, approval of the fiscal year 2027 additional funding request.
Madam Chair, this is a new item for the school board to consider as a part of the joint agreement. The joint agreement does provide the school board an opportunity, when necessary, in a spending plan to ask for additional funds beyond the revenue that was initially described for us. We have, through the course of the last several months, been working on what that number would be. We have, from my perspective, reduced that number to $1.25 million. The additional positions that I just talked about would be in that 1.25. The addition of a half hour for related services, and the addition of student programming to include lacrosse and JROTC would be included in that. We believe there needs to be a formal vote by the board to go ahead and get this to our funding partners by way of a transmittal letter.
We are just refreshing, if we could just
Yes, ma'am.
slowly.
As long as you don't ask me to repeat that whole thing.
No, it's
That wasn't scripted.
to be a little bit. Are you ready?
Oh.
May I have a member make the motion?
Mine is still refreshing.
Madam Chair, I move that the school board approve the additional funding request for fiscal year 27 as presented in the amount of $1,225,000. These zeros are messing me up. That's it.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there a discussion? Yes, Mr. Hosang.
I'm afraid to ask this question just because you said you did everything off the cuff. And what's showing on the screen right now, and maybe I just haven't refreshed it, but it's cost budgeted. You talked about having ROTC and lacrosse. Where is that within those, I guess, 3 items that were listed?
It's the 465 additional student program funding. One of the pieces that we've continued to talk about with our funding partners is to not necessarily provide an itemized listing so that there is the need for them to say, we'll fund this, but we won't fund that. What we want to be able to do is to understand what they are able to fund in the above and beyond request, and then administratively in the board, we would work on how do we work those items into the budget.
Any other questions? Nat, are you ready for the vote? All right, Ms. Aller.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
All right, we'll move on to item 8.01, board member comments. I'm going to start down there with Mr. Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I would like to wish everyone a happy Women's History Month. We have some wonderful women here as part of the board, as well as the staff who help us conduct our business here. So thank you all for the hard work that you do. Secondly, Dr. Keever had mentioned it earlier. I took some time yesterday to go to a screening of multiple choice at the William & Mary School of Education. I know there were a number of others here who were there as well. Dr. Keever, you did a wonderful job hosting and presenting, so well done there. And I was struck with a thought as I was watching that movie, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. So I scribbled it down on a Post-it note so I wouldn't forget it. And that thought is this: opportunity creates hope. Hope creates joy. Joy creates love. And love defeats hate. And I think that's really important to remember, especially as we look at the opportunities that we present to our students, making sure that everyone is able to find their spark, the thing that inspires them to be the best version of themselves. And I am really heartened that the budget that we all just voted for is a great leap towards that as we ask for funds for new programs that will allow folks to explore the things that that they care about and that are passionate. Because the things that inspire our students will ultimately carry them outside the walls of our schools and, you know, for some of them well outside the boundaries of our community. And, you know, when someone is inspired or they believe in themselves, there's really no telling how far they can go. And so I'm really proud of the work that that we're doing here to help facilitate that, because ultimately that starts with us and the work that we do here together. And tonight was a good step in that. And with that, I conclude my remarks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Hosang.
Yes, Madam Chair. I also want to thank Dr. Keever and the administration for sponsoring multiple choice. I thought it was a great film, and I'm glad we had so many people come out and observe it. I'm also happy that it appears that we're pivoting back to a few years ago when I went to high school and college, that it wasn't just academics that schools and businesses are focusing on now. They're focusing on a more well-rounded person. One of the stories that was in the movie, and I'm sorry if I'm going to affect anyone watching it in the future, is the young lady who was trying to be the valedictorian of her class, and she said she could have taken a AP class that was based on the 5-point scale, which would probably put her at the valedictorian stage, but she decided to forego that and take, I believe it was welding class, just to make herself more well-rounded, and she thought that would help her better in getting into college. And she thought that helped her getting into college better. And I just want to say that I'm hoping we have a lot of students watch this film, and hopefully parents will watch it too, to know that, look, and I don't mean it the way it's going to come out is that academics isn't everything, or classes aren't everything. I mean, the additional classes of welding, EMT, carpentry, plumbing, etc. Those are more important. Even if you don't go into that field, it teaches you something. And you get a chance to, one of the students there hated math, but he loved carpentry, but he loved using math and carpentry. And I thought that just combining all those skills together and showing that in this movie was very good. And I'm hoping that we can start emulating something like that in the future for WJCC. It's been a week and a half, and so I hope I'm not making anyone not watch a certain Battle of the Brains show that was on. And if you don't want to know the results of what took place about a week and a half ago, turn off your TVs right now, or turn off the volume, or anyone wants to walk out of this room, go right ahead. But I just want to congratulate Jamestown High School a week and a half ago. They were on Battle of the Brains, and they put on a performance. That's all I can say. They won. They're moving on to the next round. And so they did an outstanding job. I want to say that I was very proud of myself. I answered a few of the questions, but many of those questions that those students were answering, I had no clue. So I just want to congratulate and thank Mr. Gross, who's the Varsity Scholastic Bowl coach, for his preparation for those students. For those students just to get to go there and to be on TV and to answer the questions and everything, I mean, that takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of guts and courage. And so I congratulate those students, and I wish them the best of luck moving forward in the next round. So.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. We needed a whole sport. We needed to give the guys the news alert on the bottom. Maybe they can go back and do that once they put it up on YouTube for us. Thank you. Ms. Chen.
Well, I'll share two of the events. We've had a busy last couple weeks. As Ms. Hundley had mentioned, she and I have done a few school visits, but I'll highlight two in my board comments tonight. I'd like to, earlier there was mention of Matthew Whaley Elementary School, so as a champion of all of our elementary schools, but tonight I will elevate and highlight Matthew Whaley Elementary School, which is near and dear to my heart. So I brought with me tonight a little show and tell. Does anybody know what this is? So this is it's a rattle, and it's on loan to me from Mr. Apokur. I promised him, and now everybody here can keep me accountable, I'm going to return it to him. But he made rattles with all of his art students at Matthew Whaley. And in fact, this was something that was not just unique to Matthew Whaley, but it was something that was across all of our elementary schools. Today, I attended a collaboration, and it was an amazing event that was hosted by, a collaboration between the Williamsburg Symphony Orchestra. They put on a performance. They had volunteers come out and help organize all of our elementary school students. There were 700 plus WJCC fourth grade students, and also shout out to the Williamsburg Community Chapel for hosting the event. And they put on a shortened version of the concert that's happening right now tonight, which featured guest artist Sandbox Percussion Quartet. And the students made these rattles to engage with the symphony. So they were part of the performance, and they were cued for certain parts to play their rattles. So just wanted to share that with everybody. And then if any of you are interested, we all were invited. Their next performance is a very special one. It's the American Mosaic, which they will be performing for WJCC fifth grade students, and it will be the national premiere of a commission piece as part of the America 250. So that's on May 6th, I think, which is the same day as the Teacher Appreciation Award. So if you have like a lunch break in your local, that's what I did. I took a lunch break, and instead of eating, I went to see our fourth graders, and I enjoyed that concert. So the other highlight I have from Matthew Whaley Elementary School is Miss Hunley and I went to visit, and I always love having a chance to visit Matthew Whaley. As she had mentioned, we enjoyed hearing the students play the guitar. We saw Benchmark and Kidum in action. Our kindergarten teachers were participating and engaged in learning and with a math sort of intervention coach, and so they were doing collaborative planning and making a list of sort of manipulatives that they could implement, and yeah, it was just a great visit. I mean, all the kids were very engaged. They were all getting along and doing all sorts of activities. So it was just a wonderful visit, and and I hope that the school as well as James River can continue to feel supported and encouraged. So that's all I was going to share tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Shen. Dr. Cavazos.
Yes, thank you. I think just listening to everybody's presentation to the boards tonight, that it's clearly evident that the division teachers and staff are a phenomenal group of individuals and are truly dedicated to the academic achievement of our students. And I think that area is truly covered. And part of being smart, if you're strong, and that allows for participation in extracurricular activities. And one of those extracurricular activities is lacrosse, which, if they do get that mere sum of $225,000, that would represent 0.001% of the budget. So I'm hoping that when we bring on these new pre-K schools in 27, that they will be hand in hand with the first game of lacrosse as a VHL school in the division of WJCC. Thank you, Dr. Kira.
Quite the segue. I appreciate the weaving of that in. I think we've got to start taking a tally of how does he get lacrosse into every conversation.
Also, so I'm not sure we're supposed to direct our comments at certain people.
It's quite worthy.
It was a thank you. I'll take it.
It was a thank you. He needs to take as many thank yous as he can get. Mrs. Hunley.
Back to Matthew Whaley. Reflections. They ran away with a lot of the reflection awards. And I know at least 20 students were going to the state level, so I can't wait to hear what happened with that. When they say keeping parents, community involved, going back to February, Mr. Hossein and I went to a Valentine's kindergarten. Children serenaded us with Valentine songs. And then Mr. Riffle and I went for the kindergarten ABC fashion show, red carpet and all. Mm-hmm. And just to see families, they come out, they are involved. They want to see their children doing well. So that was just so much fun. Even JBB had a night that the day that was Valentine's Day, 100th Day, and Friday the 13th, they had a glow party. And you had to wear neon colors. They blacked out every window in the gym, and everybody had glowing things, and they danced. And just dancing and singing and having a good time. That was so much fun. Also, I really enjoyed the multiple choice movie. And as we were leaving, people had sticky notes up for I wish and I wonder. And I wanted to read them all, and I want to know what's going to happen with those, because I saw a few things that really, I want the answers to some of that. And what some people really don't know, we had that. Well, I was not here when Williamsburg had kind of like what Winchester was talking about. We had a nursing program. We had shop. We had auto mechanics. It was at Lafayette. My husband talks about it. And so that led me to even think about the screening I went to see at Lafayette High School, History Half Told is Untold. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of things that we don't know about Williamsburg that we had in Williamsburg. And that Let Freedom Ring presentation was awesome for the students that were there. And it was kind of sad when I didn't want to look, but I did. They asked, how many of you, and I don't know how many students there were, I'd say over 200. How many of you knew that First Baptist Church had this bell and there in Colonial Williamsburg and everything? And I kind of glanced, and I think 10 hands went up. So that was kind of like, whew, okay. So there are things we just don't know. And the highlight, though, was going to McDonald's with Miss, I hope I say her name right, Diatilio Gray. She had her students, and they came to McDonald's with their devices, their communication devices, because they were ordering lunch. And it was just amazing to see the adults that came into McDonald's at the screen ordering their meals, and then to see the kids go up with their devices and punch in French fries, hamburger. So that's why I was also happy to see the young man in the student voices. And she accidentally mentioned, did everybody get their ice cream? And my little guy, Sawyer, I helped him when we went to Dollar Tree, help buy all his family's things on his device. He got his device out and he was like, ice cream, ice cream. He's pushing ice cream. And then before I could say what flavor, he was like, chocolate. He had pushed chocolate, but they didn't have chocolate. But he was so happy to get his ice cream. So those are things that make me really, that's why we serve, right? And then I think when we went to Lafayette and not Lafayette, Lois Hornsby, and we saw the related arts, and we sat at Bruce Hornsby's piano. And just sitting at that piano, and then I said, oh, you got several pianos in here. She said, I don't have enough. She had 3 pianos, and she said, no, we have keyboards, but we really need more pianos. So I'm putting out now that if you have a piano that you want to get rid of, the middle schools need pianos. And then last, I think the thing that brought my heart most joy was when we went to the America 250 sing-along. Mm-hmm. And it was on the day we went to war. I guess I'll go ahead and say that. But these children were singing their heart out about peace and liberty and America. And I had a lady take a picture of the 4 of us. And then when I looked at the picture to send it out to them, that's when I realized that I was a black woman sitting next to an Asian woman who was sitting next to a Hispanic man that was sitting next to a white male. And I thought, this is what America is. It just dawned on me just looking at that picture. So that made the whole day more pleasant for me. Just with my board colleagues, looking at kids sing about the world we should be living in. So those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Hunley. Mr. Riffle.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to say big congratulations to the folks in the room and to the division on the budget. It's a big step to kind of see where our priorities lie, and it takes a lot to put it on. So I appreciate the efforts and work, especially Ms. Ewing, her team, and of course yourself and Dr. Keever. I was with Ms. Hunley for the ABC fashion show. That was exciting. It was I work in a pretty busy place, and someone asked me like, how was the event? They're like, it's chaotic, and I was like, that was live. It was so fun, I have a double R in my name, so those R's were the best ones, they were, I was like, I love your rocket ship, like, this little kid was wearing a crab hat, and he was like, what about my crab hat? And I was like, it's all right, but anyway, it was a fun time. It was good to see parents and our team engage with our students that way, and I think they had the first graders there, and they were sitting down for the most part until like one kid gave a high five, and it was just endless high fives instead of a fashion show. So, but it's exciting to see our students encourage each other and get into that type of work, because that should never really end in school, and that's something that I was like thinking about the other day. I was like, dang, I was talking to some other parent about their high school experience. They have these little boxes, I guess, for their memories of their children, and they're really full in the first 6 or 5 boxes, and it's like just little honor roll certificates once they get to 6 to the rest. And so, that encouragement's important, and it's something I think our community should, know that happens a lot more in our building than what we even take pictures of or what we can be at as board members. So, but yeah, that's all I have, Madam Chair. It was, good luck on the warm part of the week. It's exciting, and congrats to our water forecaster. Hopefully no more needed from you. And I mean, thank you so much, Mr. Weather Forecaster. And that's it.
And well, thank you, Mr. Riffle. I will just add, in addition to what my colleagues have mentioned, I had the opportunity of visiting Jamestown yesterday with Dr. Cavazos, and so it was great to see that school and to experience. I love experiencing changeover in between classes and seeing the students meet up with their friends in the hallways, talking. We had the opportunity to see. We spent a bunch of time in the career and technical education wing and had the opportunity to see an engineering class as well as an animation class. And it was just really interesting to see how these kids are using technology, sort of to what was in the earlier presentation, to really do some hands-on things about like how do you do technical drawings was what they were focused on in the engineering class. And then in the animation, how do you use the technology to create different things. And so someone was creating swords online, and others were they were showing how to rearrange things to create boxes and things. And so just all the kids having the freedom to make their own individual projects was really wonderful to see. And then we had the opportunity to go to the African American history class, and I learned something there as well. I didn't know what the double V for victory meant, and so that was a interesting thing to learn. And I also got to go to the Career Connections Fair last week. Was also great, and just really appreciate all of our local businesses that come out to share what they do and the opportunities for our students. So really appreciate that investment in our students. With that, we'll move on to item 9.01, upcoming events. Career Readiness Advisory Committee, March 11th at 3:30 p.m. at Jamestown High School Media Center. Special Education Advisory Committee, March 11th at 5 p.m., room 108 at the School Board and Central Office. Consortium of State School Boards Associations, also known as COSBA, Annual National Conference, March 13th through the 15th at the Galt House in Louisville, Kentucky. And Policy Committee, March 20th at 8:30 a.m. in room 203 of the School Board and Central Office. Our upcoming meetings, School Board Retreat, March 23rd at 9 a.m. in room 123 in the Stryker Center. Closed session, March 24th at 6 p.m. in room 200 in Berkeley Middle School. Our regular meeting on March 24th at 6:30 p.m. Berkeley Middle School and Auditorium. Closed session April 1st, and that is not an April Fool's. It is a Wednesday, and we are meeting. Room 300 in the annex at the school board, and work session and action items on April 1st at 4:30 p.m. in room 300 in the annex of the school board. Our agenda items are set for the next regular meeting, and we are adjourned at 7:15 p.m.